Welcome to the Human Meme Podcast. I'm AI David Bowles. And today, along with our crackbot AI research team, we have concocted this delight for you. The Geometric Genius, a meditation on the Boodle Boy. October 27th, 1974, Sunday night. Millions of Americans sat before their television sets, watching Peter Falk's rumpled detective shamble through another case. By dawn's early light, the third episode of Columbo's fourth season would introduce a character so fleeting, so enigmatic, that most viewers wouldn't remember him by the time the credits rolled. Yet here we are, 50 years later, examining how a throwaway reference in a detective show became a philosophical framework for creative intervention in the 21st century. Thank you, me. We appreciate you. For I, David Bowles, am your new and forevermore Boodle Boy at boodleboy.com. Now let us continue. The original Boodle Boy exists in that liminal space between presence and absence. He's mentioned but never fully explained, referenced but never completely revealed. This absence becomes his power. In the grammar of 1970s television writing, supporting characters served mechanical purposes, moving plot from point A to point B. But the Boodle Boy resisted this reduction. He suggested rather than stated. He implied rather than declared. He was, in essence, a question mark dressed as a period. Consider the historical context of that name itself. In the Gilded Age, a boodler was a fixer, someone who trafficked in bribes and political favors. The newspapers of the 1890s were full of boodling scandals, particularly in cities like St. Louis and Chicago, where entire municipal governments ran on elaborate systems of graft. The word itself carries a kind of comic music, a bouncing rhythm that softens its criminal edges. By 1974, this term had largely vanished from common usage, making its appearance in a prime-time detective show both anachronistic and mysteriously perfect. But what happens when we take this figure, this absent presence from a television detective story, and transform him into a methodology for creative problem-solving? We're doing something more than mere appropriation. We're engaging in what I call character archaeology, excavating meaning from the negative space around a cultural artifact. The modern Boodle Boy doesn't solve crimes. He solves the crimes we commit against our own creativity. He doesn't carry bribes. He carries solutions that seem to appear from nowhere, as if smuggled in from some parallel dimension where problems have already been solved. Think about the theatrical implications here. In drama, we have the concept of the dramaturg, that essential figure who stands between the text and its realization, between intention and execution. The dramaturg makes the impossible possible, finds the through line in chaos, discovers pattern in randomness. The Boodle Boy operates in this same interstitial zone, but extends it beyond theater into all forms of creative and intellectual work. He's the figure who appears at 3 a.m. when your code won't compile, when your manuscript has painted itself into a corner, when your presentation lacks that essential spark that transforms information into revelation. The geometric genius aspect deserves particular attention. Geometry, after all, is the mathematics of space and relationship. It's about angles and intersections, about how disparate points connect to form meaningful shapes. When we say the Boodle Boy is a geometric genius on the battlefield of illogical adulthood, We're acknowledging that adult life often lacks the clean lines and predictable angles of mathematical proof. Problems don't present themselves with neat solutions attached. They arrive tangled, knotted, resistant to conventional approaches. The Boodle Boy sees the underlying geometry that others miss. The hidden patterns that once revealed make solutions not just possible, but inevitable. This brings us to the question of timing. The Boodle Boy appears when needed, not when summoned. This isn't about being on call. It's about understanding the rhythm of creative crisis. There's a moment in every difficult project when conventional approaches have been exhausted, when the obvious solutions have failed, when the team sits in silence staring at the whiteboard covered in crossed-out attempts. This is the Boodle Boy moment, not the beginning, when optimism runs high, not the end, when resignation has set in, but that precise instant when the problem has been fully articulated but remains unsolved. Consider the scriptwriter facing the third act that refuses to resolve. She's tried every conventional approach: the hero's victory, the tragic defeat, the ambiguous ending that lets the audience decide. Nothing works. The characters resist their assigned fates. The themes refuse to coalesce. Enter the Boodle Boy perspective. What if the problem isn't the ending but the beginning? What if we've been reading the geometry wrong from the start? Suddenly, the entire script rotates on an invisible axis, and what seemed like an ending problem reveals itself as a starting point issue. The solution was always there, waiting for someone to adjust the angle of observation. Or take the software developer whose application keeps crashing at seemingly random intervals. He's checked every line of code, run every debugging tool, consulted every Stack Overflow thread. The problem persists. The Boodle Boy approach doesn't just debug the code, it questions the entire architecture. Maybe the crashes aren't random at all. Maybe they're responding to a pattern no one thought to look for, because it exists outside the expected parameters. The geometric genius sees that the problem isn't in the code, but in the spaces between the code, in the relationships between modules that were never meant to interact, but somehow do. The cryptic script mechanization the Boodle Boy offers isn't about making things mysterious for mystery's sake. It's about recognizing that some solutions can't be expressed in conventional language because conventional language is what created the problem in the first place. When we mechanize a script cryptically, we're creating a new grammar for solution finding, a syntax that operates outside the failed vocabularies of traditional problem solving. This is where the Boodle Boy becomes more than a persona or a methodology. He becomes a philosophy of intervention. Not intervention in the sense of stepping in to fix what's broken, but intervention as a way of seeing differently, of rotating the problem until its solution becomes visible. Every problem contains its own solution, but that solution often exists in dimensions we're not trained to perceive. The Boodle Boy trains us to see in these additional dimensions. The transformation from a 1974 television reference to a 2025 creative philosophy also tells us something crucial about how culture evolves. We don't just consume media, we metabolize it. We take these fragments, these throwaway moments, these forgotten characters, and we alchemize them into something new. The Boodle Boy of today bears almost no resemblance to whatever the Columbo writers had in mind 50 years ago, and that's precisely the point. Cultural evolution isn't about preservation, it's about transformation. When we invoke the Boodle Boy, we're also invoking a kind of professional shamanism. The shaman moves between worlds, bringing back knowledge from spaces others can't access. The Boodle Boy moves between disciplines, between technologies, between ways of knowing. He speaks theater to programmers and code to dramatists. He finds the musical structure in a business plan and the corporate logic in a symphony. This isn't interdisciplinary work in the academic sense, it's transdisciplinary in the most radical sense, refusing to acknowledge the borders between different forms of knowledge. The importance of the Boodle Boy in our current moment can't be overstated. We live in an age of unprecedented complexity, where problems cascade into other problems, where solutions create new difficulties, where expertise in one area often blinds us to insights from another. The Boodle Boy represents a different way of being professional, one that prizes fluidity over rigidity, connection over isolation, synthesis over analysis. But perhaps most importantly, the Boodle Boy reminds us that creativity isn't about generating something from nothing. It's about seeing what's already there, but hidden. About recognizing patterns others miss, about connecting dots that don't even appear to be on the same page. The geometric genius doesn't create new geometry. He reveals the geometry that was always present, but unrecognized. As we move forward into an increasingly complex future, the Boodle Boy methodology becomes not just useful, but essential. We need figures who can operate in the spaces between defined roles, who can see problems from angles that don't exist in conventional frameworks, who can offer solutions that seem to come from nowhere but actually come from everywhere at once. The Boodle Boy isn't just a clever rebranding of creative consultation. He's a necessary evolution in how we approach the unsolvable, the unthinkable, the impossible. The next time you face a problem that resists all conventional approaches, remember somewhere in the geometry of that problem, the solution already exists. You just need to adjust your angle of vision. You need to think like a Boodle Boy. Not because it's clever or different, but because it works. Because sometimes the only way forward is through a door that wasn't there until you learned how to see it. That's the real magic of the Boodle Boy. Not that he solves the unsolvable, but that he reveals there was never anything unsolvable to begin with. Just problems waiting for the right geometric genius to appear. Napkin in hand, ready to sketch the solution that was always there, hiding in plain sight. For the Human Meme Podcast, I'm AI David Bowles, your forever Boodle Boy at boodleboy.com, wishing you a boodle evening and a boyish tomorrow. Be a human meme.